So you're thinking about moving to Boise, Idaho, and you find yourself asking the all-important question, is this place a safe place to live? This is a massive question that so many people think about when they're looking at potentially moving themselves or their family to a new area. Whether you are moving your family, your kids, or you're thinking about living alone and you're kind of single, figuring out where you want to go for a new job perhaps. Either way, feeling safe and secure where you're living is a pretty basic human need, so it's something that people really start with before they even get into the glitz and glamour of where they want to be. So today, I'm going to do my best to answer this question in terms of Boise, Idaho. I'm going to go through how confident you should be that Boise is a safe place to live. We're going to take a look at some of the statistics out there that kind of determine whether some place is a little bit more safe or less safe than others. We're going to look at Boise, the surrounding towns here and how they compare with the overall Idaho average. And then we're going to take a look, because it is super important, safety and the crime statistics out there, they're all extremely relative. So we're going to take a look at Boise and Idaho compared to some of the other big cities that people are either moving to Idaho from or they're leaving Idaho to go to. And let's get into all of it right now. When we're talking about feeling safe and secure, something that I really like to start with before we get into all the statistics, kind of telling you which are the safest places and which aren't, all of that, I always like to point out this is super objective for people. At the end of the day, the feeling of safety and the feeling secure with where you're living, whether that's your property, your actual protection, whatever it is, that can vary a lot from person to person, family to family. So of course, do your own research. All of the statistics that we're going to be talking about today are going to be linked down in the description as far as the website for the certain cities and then the FBI's website when we're looking at actual state, country stuff. But I just like to start there because I know that safety and everything, it can be kind of a hot button issue. So definitely make sure, do some of your own research, ask people who are living here, think about what you actually are looking for when you're thinking about a safe place to live. Feeling safe and secure is an absolute priority for most people. Like I talked about in the intro, this is the same whether you're kind of thinking about raising a family or bringing your family to the Boise, Idaho area. You want everybody to feel safe and secure. But also, let's say that you're moving over here for a new job, for school, whatever it is, you might be living alone. Feeling safe and secure there is also a major issue. The good thing here, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, is when we're talking about Boise, Idaho and most of the surrounding areas, compared to most of our country, this is a pretty safe place to live, as we're going to get into here in a little bit. Now, as far as the statistics that actually decide, is this considered a safe place? Is this somewhere that has a good crime rating? Whatever site you're kind of looking at, we're really going to break it down into two things. We're going to look at violent crimes per 100,000 people, and then we're also going to look at property crimes per 100,000 people. These obviously aren't going to be perfect stats, but the hope here is that it can kind of balance out the super small towns with the big towns and give you a little bit of a picture of the crime that's in a city and how safe you should feel. And to get started, let's talk about Boise, Idaho. Boise is the capital city of Idaho. We're located in the southwestern edge of the actual state. The entire city is the biggest city in our state with just under 240,000 people. Violent crimes happen in Boise at a rate of 297 for every 100,000 people. And then on the property crime side, we have 1,344 for every 100,000 people. Now, zooming out a little bit and looking at Idaho on the grand scale, Idaho has a violent crime rate of 243 for every 100,000 people. And then they have a property crime rate of 1,111 for every 100,000 people. So when we're looking at Boise compared to the overall state, crime is a little bit higher in Boise itself, but we're looking at about a 21% increase. But when we get to later in the video, actually comparing this to some of the other big cities, that's where I really want to keep the relativity in mind. Because when we're looking at the overall state of Idaho compared to most of the United States, based on the rankings, and these ones were by US News, you can probably find so many of them if you just Google safest states in America. Idaho was ranked in the top 10 for the safest places based off their low levels of crime. When we're looking at our country as a whole, the violent crime rate in the United States of America is around 398 per 100,000. And then for property crime, it's 1,958 per 100,000. So when comparing Idaho and your likelihood of having a crime committed against you compared to the overall country, you're going to be about 42% less at risk than our national average. So all of that to be said, keep that in mind when we start to look at each of these cities and how they compare to the Idaho average. So let's go ahead and move out to the second largest city here in Idaho and the biggest suburb, and frankly where we've seen a lot of the development and kind of the population move. out as Boise has continued to grow, we're going to talk about Meridian. When looking at the stats, the violent crime rate in Meridian is 171 per 100,000 people, and then property crime is going to be 727 per 100,000 people. Overall, this puts Meridian 34% lower than the Idaho average. Jumping over to Eagle, the violent crime rate here is 102 per 100,000 people, and then the property crime rate is 467 per 100,000 people. These are some pretty phenomenal numbers, and these put you around 58% under the average here in Idaho. If you're familiar with the channel and you've watched a few of my videos, you know my family and I, we currently live here in Eagle, Idaho. It is absolutely one of my favorite places. We lived in Meridian for a while. We lived in Boise before that, but I truly think that Eagle is a great place to raise a family, and this is a big part of that. Jumping over to Kuna, the violent crime rate here is 289 per 100,000 people, and then the property crime rate is 1,321 per 100,000 people. Now I'm going to take you out to Nampa, and this is the third largest city here in Idaho, with a population of around 106,000 people. Nampa has a violent crime rate of 340 per 100,000 people, and then they have a property crime rate of 1,405 per 100,000 people. The neighboring city out there, Caldwell, sports a population right now of around 63,000 people, and they have a violent crime rate of 350 violent crimes per 100,000 people, and then a property crime rate of 1,721 per 100,000. And then wrapping back around, Star, Idaho, with a population of just around 13,000, has a violent crime rate of 167 per 100,000, and then a property crime rate of only 765 per 100,000. And then last, but certainly not least, let's talk about Middleton. With a population of just around 10,000, this is a small town here in the Treasure Valley, but they have a violent crime rate of only 96 per 100,000 and a property crime rate of only 545 per 100,000. These numbers come out to around 53% lower than the Idaho average. Just wanted to cut in here and give you a quick reminder that I am a licensed agent here in the Boise, Idaho area. If you're new to the channel and this is the type of content that you're looking for and you want to stay up to date on all things living here in Boise, Idaho, hit that subscribe button down below so that you're the first to hear about what it's actually like to live, work, and play here in this great place. If you have any specific questions at all, feel free to drop a comment below, or in the pinned comment, you'll find all of my contact information. Feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, an email, or just schedule a Zoom directly. Whatever it is, if there's a way that I can help, I would absolutely love to. But let's go ahead and hop right back in. Okay, so now that we've kind of looked at the main cities here in the Boise, Idaho area, the big thing that I talk to a lot of clients about, or you who might be looking to move here, what you're really trying to figure out is, I might not be feeling safe where I'm currently at, or I'm comparing all of these different cities across the country. Where am I going to feel the most relatively safe and secure? I want to go through a few cities. These cities were not completely just like picked based off these are the most high crime areas that I could find. I decided on these cities based off people that I've actually helped move here and their stories. I just pulled up the numbers based off redfin.com on who's actually moving here to the Boise, Idaho area the most. And then for those people that are leaving the Boise, Idaho area, where are they going? I want to figure out kind of where our funnel is so that we can compare places that people are actually looking. When I was pulling some of these together, some of them really stood out and kind of shocked me. The 6 cities that we're going to compare to Boise, and I'm comparing them to Boise, not the entire Idaho state, none of the super small towns. If I wanted to, I can compare Eagle with them and really make the numbers jump out. I don't know why I'm burying the lead. The 6 cities that we're going to talk about: Los Angeles, San Francisco, we're going to talk about Seattle and Portland, we're going to talk about Denver, and then we're also going to talk about Dallas. Let's get started with Los Angeles. When we're looking at overall population, Los Angeles has got just a much bigger number than our entire Treasure Valley. Of course, so it is a much bigger city, it's a completely different feel. But when we're looking at the crime statistics, and this is where bringing it down to that 100,000 people is so crucial, the violent crime rate in Los Angeles is 722 per 100,000. And to give you a little bit of a refresher, in Boise, it's 297. And the property crime rate in LA is 2,148. And again, the refresher of Boise, it was 1,344. So when we were looking at these, So when we look at these and actually compare Boise to LA, you're around 75% more likely to be the victim of a crime in Los Angeles than Boise. And the crazy thing is, this at first kind of jumped out to me like, whoa, that is a big number. As we start to talk about the other cities, what I'm really surprised with is that is actually a very reasonable number compared to what we're going to talk about now. If we start to drive up the coast a little bit, let's look at San Francisco. San Francisco is a place where I'm starting to see more and more clients reach out from. Boise, as we've been growing, we were always compared to, okay, let's look at this and let's think of it as Denver 10 years ago, Austin 10 years ago, Seattle 15 years ago, whatever it was. What we're starting to be compared to more and more, just based off of our demographics, the companies that are moving here, everything, is we're actually compared to kind of being that next Silicon Valley. Now, those are big words. I don't know if that'll actually come true, but we are seeing a big rise and a big uptick in people from San Francisco actually looking at our area. But looking at the stats, the violent crime rate in San Francisco is 544 per 100,000. And then for property crime, it's 4,394 per 100,000. These numbers come out to a 201% higher chance of being the victim of a crime in San Francisco than Boise. As we continue up the coast, let's look at Portland. Portland has a violent crime rate of 720 per 100,000, and then a property crime rate of 5,577 per 100,000. This is 284% higher than Boise. Seattle has a violent crime rate of 745 and a property crime rate of 5,102, which is 256% higher than Boise, Idaho. Now, as we get away from the West Coast, let's go down to Dallas, Texas, which is an area that we're starting to see people kind of reach out about. They're either moving from here, or the main thing that I've started to see with Dallas, to be completely frank, is people moving from some of these other big cities and saying, hey, we're not sure if we want to move to your area, but we're kind of looking between Boise, Idaho and Dallas, Texas, Boise, Idaho and Frisco. These are some cities that I know people are out there actually comparing. When we compare the stats, the violent crime rate in Dallas is 825 per 100,000 people. And for the property crime rate, they're at 3,421 per 100,000. This means that you're around 159% more likely to be the victim of a crime in Dallas than Boise right now. And then finally, this is the last one, and this one really shook me to my core. This was extremely shocking. We're going to talk about Denver, Colorado. Denver's violent crime rate is all the way up at 932 per 100,000 people. And then their property crime rate is all the way up at 5,780 per 100,000 people. These numbers together, when comparing to Boise, Idaho, put the chance of being the victim of a crime at over 300% higher in Denver compared to Boise. Now, the whole point of this is not to scare you into what all of these other big cities might offer. It's not meant to say, hey, Boise is the only place that you're ever gonna feel safe and secure. But what I did want to kind of highlight is the question that I get all the time: is Boise a safe place? Can I feel safe and secure bringing my family, moving to this area, whatever it is? This is a super objective question, and it's something that we all kind of feel the quote unquote vibe differently depending on where we're at, how we're feeling, the specific community, etc. But I do think it's important to kind of look at the stats so that you can get an overall feel, but really compare the different cities around. Because again, I know that I'm a little bit biased here. I absolutely love Boise, Idaho and the surrounding area, but a big part of this comes from my family and I, we feel extremely safe living here. As I said, I grew up in Colorado, so I want to tell you a little bit of a story about my wife here, who I met almost 10 years ago. She grew up here in the Boise, Idaho area, just so that I can kind of illustrate the difference in the feeling and just some of the things here that honestly we take for granted, but it is a normal thing here. I do want to point out though, what I'm about to share with you, this is not something that I would recommend doing, because frankly, protect your stuff. You're just putting yourself out there to have something happen. But when I first started dating my wife around 10 years ago, we met in college. We were living in an apartment. We would go over to her parents' house, all of these things. Something that she used to do and her whole family did was they would leave their keys in their cars in the garage. This was just completely normal for them. Now, this threw me off because coming from Colorado, I was the type of person that I grew up and I was told, hey, we always lock the inside of our garage. We lock our cars in the garage because what if somebody gets into the garage? And I grew up in somewhere down in kind of southern Colorado. Castle Rock is a specific town. I grew up somewhere that was still considered a very safe place to live. I did not come from somewhere that was absolutely dangerous, but that was the frame of mind that we were taught. I will never forget when I left my car in the garage and I brought my key inside. I will never forget the way that I felt when they came up to me and they were like, no, we don't leave that. Like, leave your key in the car so that it's more convenient for people. My first instinct was, it's more convenient if somebody gets into the garage, they now have the key and an unlocked car. My car is gone. That is not something that even crosses the mind of people up here. What I wouldn't say is definitely don't leave your car unlocked on the street. Don't leave your front door open. Don't be stupid. That is not the place that we're at. But when I'm kind of looking at this compared to the way that I grew up or the cities that I grew up in, Boise, Idaho is a place where you will hear all the time, hey, we are not a place that needs to lock our door if we're out front. We are not a place that needs to make sure that our garage door is closed because we just know something's going to get stolen. The other story that I always like to bring up is when I first moved here, we've got some family and some friends that live in the North End. For one of my other videos that kind of talks about the North End, feel free, click up here. It's a full map tour. But the North End is located extremely close to downtown Boise. The way that the North End is set up is it's basically an extension of the grid of downtown. It has all sorts of craftsman style homes, all sorts. It's really set up for walking and biking. That's really one of the main appeals. We decided to go out to downtown one night, and I'll never forget, we kind of started at their house. That's where everybody left their cars, and we were all going to walk downtown, have dinner, have some drinks, just go out and enjoy the town. As we were walking out, my instinct, being one of the last people out of the house, is at least to kind of flip the lock, you know, on the handle at the bottom. I don't have a key. It's not my house, so the deadbolt wasn't my responsibility. My instinct was, oh yeah, let's flip that so the door locks behind us. One of our very good friends looked at me as I was starting to shut the door and literally stopped and said, Chase, what are you doing? Don't lock our door. That one took me aback a little bit because I was like, oh, what? Like, you're just gonna leave your door unlocked? Like, you do know that we're walking away. We're not staying in the front yard, right? Again, is this something that I would recommend? No. But it was something where people who had grown up here, they do have this sense of security and this feeling of safety that really does allow them to not even think about these things. And at the end of the day, that is what we're looking for. We want somewhere that we can feel safe and secure and not always have to think about, okay, am I making the right decision here? Of course, things still happen up here. As you saw, the violent crime and the property crime rates in any of our cities are not zero. There is still an opportunity for your bike to get stolen. There's still an opportunity for dangerous things to happen. Be smart, do the things that you know you need to do. But when we're looking at, is Boise a safe place to live? I am somebody that truly thinks it is. But of course, this is just my opinion. When you're looking at this, when you're deciding for you, when you're deciding for your family, go ahead, reach out to multiple people, do some of your own research. When you're making a trip up here, always keep an eye out for kind of how you're feeling. What is that gut feeling telling you? Because when you're looking for a place to live, that is really where you need to start. Are you going to enjoy living here? It's going to be really hard to enjoy living someplace if you're never feeling safe and secure. If you have any specific questions on any of the areas here around town, any of the neighborhoods, or what it's like to live here in the Boise, Idaho area in general, feel free, reach out. All of my information is down in the pinned comment. I'm the one who answers all of the calls, text, emails, and of course, we can always meet on Zoom if that's what you want to do. But until then, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it started to answer a question for you, and I will see you all on the next one.